Welcome back to Enthador, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Marcus Aurelius, and this is Dwarf Fortress version 0.43.03, if you need to know. And we are the growing town of Foresthome, and we are recording immediately after stopping the last time. I mean, not in real time, it's been like a week, but in game time. And I'm wondering why this door isn't here and why it's just instead a pool of blood. I mean, I guess that seems pretty normal for this place, but okay, the koboldite door is there, but there's a spattering of red squirrel blood. Oh boy. Can't have that. But anyways, the main purpose of this episode is I want to draft some dwarves into our melee squad. So we're going to be doing that. But before we do anything else, in the last episode I mentioned that there has been somewhat of a dearth of artwork lately, and so I am incredibly fortunate in that one of my viewers, Angel3, decided to help me out and draw some profile portraits of our dwarves, starting with 3 of our initial 7, and they are amazing. So the first one I'm going to showcase is Old Skunky, our mayor. Notice that Old Skunky has kind of a receding hairline around his temples. He has a small nose overall, but he has sharp, intelligent eyes, which is great because he's the mayor. He's the one people go to with their complaints. He has to make sure that things are running okay at Foresthome. I wouldn't say he's been doing a bang-up job up to this point, but I'm not going to blame him because it is mostly my fault as the god/overseer of this fortress. But next, we have our late broker/bookkeeper, may Armok rest his soul, Silver Smurf. Now, notice that in comparison to Old Skunky, Silver Smurf has more wavy hair, and his beard is a lot more bushy. He also has fuller cheeks, kind of cherubic almost, and a longer face than what you would typically expect from most dwarves. And finally, his beard is, as I mentioned, very, very bushy, but also his eyebrows as well. Finally, we come to Nizek. Now, Nizek is a bit more scraggly. If you look at his hair, it looks kind of thin, not nearly as smooth as the other 2 dwarves. He definitely has a big and pointy nose, definitely the largest proboscis of the 3 dwarves that we've seen. But he has a manicured beard, if you'll notice, ending in a little bit of a point. So maybe he realizes that his features aren't as handsome as the other 2, and so he makes up for it by his good grooming of his beard. So anyways, I'd like to thank Kate, aka Angel3. Kate, I thought you were a dude, really, because I have a cousin named Artie. Arthur was his real name, but I guess you're not. That doesn't matter, that's fantastic, and thank you so much for contributing these wonderful artworks. I really appreciate it, thank you so much. Alright, and moving on, we are going to profile a dwarf. That sounds really fun, doesn't it? So who are we going to get? Let's see. 183. 183 is Skull Reaver. I think Skull Reaver might have died, though. Let's take a look. Yes, unfortunately, Skull Reaver has passed, and we are not able to profile him or her. 223. Pea Soup. Now, I know Pea Soup is still alive because Pea Soup is currently in our Mark's Dwarf squad. So let's give a look at Pea Soup. Pea Soup Cepholineth is currently in an individual combat drill, so training up because Pea Soup knows that he or she is going to be fighting the goblins soon. Let's see here. The last name means Enter City. Ooh, that's kind of an odd name for a dwarf trying to prevent creatures from coming into the city. But hey, whatever. You can't You can't change what your name is, you know? Your name, what your name is. It's what you were given when you were born. However, he does have one kill, Senene Pointy Letter, the Hazy Keys of Soot, the goblin, and that was in 155. And let's see. Pea Soup has a wife that's not in the fortress, a son and parents who are not in the fortress, but his grandparents, Black Iron Tarkus, Stagar the Goat, they're both in the fortress, as well as his older brothers, Simon Ulander, who is his squad mate in the Bone Queen's Bolts, and Korkan Renan. So he moved to Foresthome with his grandparents and older brothers. No one knows where his wife, son, and parents are. One thing I've noticed is that dwarves don't really care very much for the family unit, in the sense that you don't see mother, father, and child moving to the fortress together. In fact, oftentimes you'll have a dwarf move without their spouse or without their children. It's very interesting. Then we have Wolf Kesvik as an aunt, along with Sheldor and the late Gribeye. Or it says unassigned, so is Gribeye still alive? I don't know. John dead. Fredivalda. Hey, remember Fredivalda? Mr. Popdog. Doodlejack. Matthews. And then we have some cousins. Oh, that was nieces. Matthews is a niece. But then we have some cousins. Imgrimish Redbeard, who is in the fortress. Menaton and Balder the Great from Sandpillar. Bort Glasgow, also from Sandpillar. Skull Reaver, who is passed, unfortunately. Bluefang, Slavko XXX. And that's Adata. No gods, it looks like. He is an atheist. And no enemies. I am separated from Zuglar Rootkeys. I cannot give in to sadness. No, Pea Soup, you cannot give in to sadness, but give in to rage, because we need you to kill many, many goblins. Let's see, Pea Soup is satisfied upon improving striking. That's fantastic. Satisfied about learning about wrestling. Now, you see, I'm not having my Marksdwarves actually practice shooting at a Marksdwarf target. I've come to the realization that that is just a good way to waste bolts. And yes, you can make wooden bolts for training, but the programming of the game is so crappy in that particular area that they end up filling up their quivers with wooden bolts, and then they get into combat and there's no metal bolts, they don't fire anything. It's just such a hassle. You'd think it'd be something really easy, like you could just carry two quivers, one with training bolts, one with combat bolts, and the dwarves would know what's what based on what they were doing. But apparently not. So I've just decided that they will get their training from live fire exercises against enemies, and I find that's the best because they really rapid fire the bolts, and their skill improves with every bolt they fire, regardless of whether they hit or not. So it doesn't take too long, especially if there's tons of goblins and you're just taking pot shots at them for days and days and days, to raise up your skill. So instead they're training things like wrestling, and I would hope dodging and armor use and things like that, though none of them are wearing armor, and that's just something we need to fix soon. We don't have any iron, but you'd think from some of the goblins that we killed we could get some. Anyway, pleasure near a fine trade depot. Nice. Pleasure near a fine table. Blissful dining in a fantastic dining room. I'm glad that our tiny little dining room is fantastic. And he felt satisfied at work. He didn't feel anything after seeing a Kawati die. Yeah, I don't really feel much when I watch Kawati dies either. Euphoric due to inebriation, of course. Let's see. Pea Soup likes Galena, lead, Heliodor, red panda leather, reindeer hoof, gauntlets, weapon racks, donkeys for their stubbornness, and giant lizards for their beauty. When possible, he prefers to consume giant moose, water buffalo cheese, and mango wine. He absolutely detests worms. Yeah, who doesn't? And you know what, ladies and gentlemen? I know there's some of you out there watching who don't really enjoy the profiles, so you can fast forward through this, but I just remembered that to thank Artie Angel 3 for doing those wonderful drawings, I'm going to profile her dwarf, Pozzo, the leader of our squad. So we're going to have two profiles this episode. And again, if you don't like the profiles, that's cool with me. Just fast forward. But I think they add a lot, and no one else on YouTube does them. So I'd like to just highlight the qualities and interests of the dwarves that we have here. So let's check that out. All right, Pozzo Giken Muthkal, or Muthkat, Bone Queen, is currently sleeping. And Let's see here. Pinna has one notable kill, which is Gavin. Remember the dwarf that went crazy, so he had to be put down. Pinna took care of that for us, as is the responsibility of the militia commander. I'm sure it wasn't a pleasant task, but she did it with aplomb. And 2 other kills, a troll and a goblin, both in Foresthome. Pinna is a worshipper of Stag Shill, and is the apprentice, apparently, of Rovad Olankalan. Oh, finally! Someone has a grudge! Oh my god! Pinna has a grudge against Callan Oakenshield. Or Orkenshield. Our gem cutter. Oh boy, Callan. I don't know. I mean, she's probably the toughest, most badass dwarf in our entire fortress. I don't know if you necessarily want to have a grudge with her, but so it goes. And car just started outside. I apologize if you heard that. I'll try to reduce or otherwise remove it. Nothing you can do, I guess. Pinna doesn't feel anything after sleeping without a proper room. She feels satisfied after learning about striking. Now, she doesn't have a proper room because all of my military dwarves are supposed to sleep in the barracks. But maybe as militia commander, I will give her a nice room later. There's plenty of room inside the building that we built, the barracks building. Like that top floor, I could build like a commander's office in there or something. We'll figure it out. She is teaching wrestling to the other dwarves, so that's awesome. And she's also learning about striking. She was uneasy after being unable to acquire something for too long. Probably a bolt? Don't know, maybe armor? She was bored after being unable to practice a craft. Well, your only craft is killing, so... Satisfied after teaching striking. Satisfied after teaching dodging. Satisfied upon improving teaching. She was grouchy when caught in the rain. So yeah, that's the problem with living on the surface. Sometimes, apparently, you just have to deal with getting caught in the rain. Pinna likes sylvite, silver, picture jasper, giant snapping turtle shell, llama wool, linen fabric, gems, bucklers, backpacks, blue peafowls for their coloration, bats for their haunting cries, the words of the style of pregnancy, and the sight of the umber velvet. When possible, she prefers to consume giant hyena, apricot, wine, or apricot wine, not apricot / wine, and dwarven sugar. She absolutely detests purring maggots. She has a great kinesthetic sense, which is really great for a militia commander. And she's a casual worshiper of Stag's Hill. She's an apprentice under Rovad. But an apprentice of what? I do not know. And I'll just kind of scroll down through this. You could pause the screen and look at it. So, Kate, if you want, you can look at her physical attributes and perhaps do a nice portrait. That would be lovely. And apparently she doesn't have any wounds. I kind of thought she might have a wound because she did get in some trouble there when we were fighting the goblins, but I don't know. So let's take a look at Dwarf Therapist because I've changed a couple things here. I've turned off the tooltips. Thank you so much for the person who told me to do that. Although I gotta say, folks, it is the most annoying thing in the world. You have to actually go to File, which you can't see, but whatever. Then you go to the user settings, and then you just have to go to the tooltips tab and uncheck everything. Like, I feel like there should be one giant checkbox that just says, turn off the tooltip. But, ooh, show syndromes. I kind of like that. Hopefully it shows in the thing that I use to replace the tooltip, which is this here, where you can now look at a dwarf. And the reason I have Enderling up here is because I have our dwarves rated based on their health issues. And Enderling has a critical health issue, which is an ear infection and a smashed apart ear. So Enderling might not be too long for this world, but he's not the only one. We have 3 military dwarves, Telor, who also has an infection in his right foot, first toe, and right hand, fourth finger, Alandril, well, luckily Alandril's just tired, thank goodness, and Patricia Longspear, who's also tired. So Telor, you're a good Marks dwarf, you're very talented, I'd like to keep you, but hopefully your infections will not lead to death. That would be bad. I'm not a big fan, but we'll see what happens. We need to build a hospital is what I'm trying to say here. So now we're going to go to profession. Why are we doing that? Well, because I'm going to go to our unassigned dwarves, and we are going to have a draft. Now, it's not going to be a random draft, I don't think. I did that before, but instead I'm going to go over here, and I'm going to see who is the most suited to be in our military squads. So, for example, Axe Dwarf. Let's see. So no one's really great, but the top here is Tettletod, and Tettletod has apparently axe skill, no? Oh no, it's what they need. I think it's when it's bold, it means they have it. But that's funny because Tettletod is the highest, and yet doesn't have any of these skills. Well, what's somebody who's bad? Like, for example, Henrik. And I know you can't see all this. It's a tooltip, I'm sorry. Maybe I can put it over here. Roles. Yeah, preferences, attributes. There we go. Well, it doesn't really give us much, but... So, Henrik... I guess it's really not that big a difference. 52, 32. I mean, it's 68 on Marksdwarf for Torvgan. So we can look at rolls, dodger. So okay, good at dodging, good at Marksdwarfing. Sounds nice. Wait, if that's Torvgan, then where's... Oh right, Tettletod is up here at the top. Alright, well I guess I'm just going to trust that Dwarf Therapist knows what it's doing when it puts certain dwarves at the top, even if they don't necessarily have any of these skills that matter. But let's see here. Roll, Weaver, Farmer, Cheesemaker, Observer, Fighter, 64.62, Leader, Striker, Wrestler. I guess that's good enough. Let's see. I wonder if I can look at their, like, their health. Kinesthetic sense is great. All right, but what about strength? Okay. Strength is 1374 out of 2718. It's not great, but quite durable. Okay, I like that. Quick to heal. I like that a lot too. All right, fine. You're on. Oh, do I have to go all the way to your name? Tettletod? Yes, I do. Customization, or no, let's assign to squad. Stonehilt's Slayers. Alright, Jurist Fat Hog is next. Jurist Fat Hog has Ambusher, Kicker, Wrestler, Dodger, Striker. So that's pretty good. Skills, or attributes I should say. Good kinesthetic sense. Basically unbreakable. Yep, Jurist Fat Hog, you are definitely on it. Now, Enderling. Enderling, I'm going to leave you alone, actually, because you are in critical health. Maybe if things get better for you, we'll consider you again. Torvgan. Torvgan has Dodger as his top rating. Marksdwarf, though. Well, sorry, Torvgan. We're going to have to retrain you. But I like the fact that you can dodge. For a melee dwarf, that is really important. Not really that important for a Marksdwarf. You are very strong. You're not super tough, unfortunately. You have a lot of willpower. But you are quick to heal, and you have a good kinesthetic sense. Now, kinesthetic sense is a sense of your own body and its movements. So for a melee fighter, that's important. Okay. Ingramish Redbeard. You have... really, nothing sets you apart, I guess. You don't have great anything. So why did it think you're good on this list? Because you have Leader and Ambusher. I see. So you're not really well set up for melee fighting. But it says here you do have decent strength. I mean, you have more black than red. That's what I'm trying to say here. You're poor at endurance, and you're poor at disease resistance, but you're pretty decent at strength, agility, toughness, and recuperation. All right. Again, I'm trusting that Therapist knows what it's doing. Alessandro. Oh yeah, Fighter is your #1 role. You have a great feel for your surroundings, which is great. You are clumsy. That's not ideal. But you have an iron will. You're pretty tough, pretty strong. Not amazing in either, but not bad. Bad intuition. Quite poor focus, but you're slow to tire and you're rarely sick. So for a military dwarf, that's a good skill to have. Bullzome. Bullzome is quick to tire, unfortunately, but has an amazing spatial sense. Fighter is a 77% rating. All right, and finally, Alaric. Alaric has Marksdwarf, Animal Trainer, Hunter, Trapper, Dodger, Ambusher. So you're definitely set up to be a Marksdwarf, but we don't need Marksdwarfs. We need melee dwarves. You are incredibly quick to heal, and you have a very good sense of the position of your own body. Alaric, you're in. All right, so Stonehilt's Slayers has been put together. Hurrah, hooray, hooray, hurrah. Let's commit. Which I know you can't see, but you just have to trust that I pushed the button that said commit. I think you'd much more like to see the dwarves and their abilities than the random other stuff like, you know, this. You can look at that on your own if you want. All right, so let's look at our military here. We have Stonehilt Slayers. It's a full squad. Perfect. Now let's go with supplies. Carry any drink and 3 food. Let's... no, carry any drink and... Nope, any drink and 3 food. Excellent. We don't want ammunition. And their schedule should be all set up to train 10 minimum. Yes. Now we are going to do sleep in barracks at will, because that's important. And do all of these guys have that? Yep, excellent. Inactive uniformed. Yeah, as soon as we get you some armor, we're going to put some armor on you. Okay, so we're good. This is solid. Done. And that's really all we need to do with them right now until we get them some armor. So, but what I am going to do, though, is I'm going to set them up to train. Do we have a armor stand currently? We do. Excellent. A Koboldite armor stand. Let's set that up. And then they'll have their own training room. So let's look up here. Oh, you know, I guess there is no room for a special house for Pozzo Pinna. And here's where things get kind of not so good, because if I assign the squad to sleep in the barracks, I don't think I can take Pozzo Pinna out of there and give her a separate assignment from the rest of the squad. Like, I can't say, okay, Pozzo Pinna gets her nice, lavish room, but the rest of the squad has to stay in the barracks. I don't think you can do that. I think it has to be all the squad or nobody, which I guess is for the best, right? Because if you were a military dwarf, you would want to know that your commander is sharing the same hardships and dealing with the same life events that you are. It leads to greater morale and unit cohesion, and all in all, I think it's probably for the best. So we're going to do train the Slayers in here. Excellent. And we're going to have to make them a barracks. Do we have any beds? We do. Not enough, though. 1, 2, 3, and 4. So we need 6 more beds. Okay. And we need 10 Koboldite chests. So let's go. Stone. Actually, I think they're called coffers when they are stone. Rock coffer. Okay, let's do 10. And details Koboldite, which we are running out of. But we do have enough. So let's take a look down here at our mining situation. Okay, NRU is mining out some... Well, he was supposed to mine out diorite, but it looks like he's found himself in a room that's now full of schist. Schist is fine, we're making crafts out of it, but I am making most of our blocks and furniture out of diorite. And there's some Koboldite. Okay, so we're going to raise the priority on this to 3. Here 2. And here. And while we're at it, we might as well dig some. And why am I using... I can just use the mouse. There we go. There you go, Marcus. Stop being such an old fogey with your keyboard and shift. Let's use the mouse like a proper Let's Player. Ooh, we have some more silver and copper. I might have to make copper armor for these guys. I really don't want to, but if there's any iron here, it's probably deep underground. I'll have to open up the cavern, which you think, well, why not? That's fantastic. I'd love to open up the cavern, but the thing is, it leads to problems because it hurts the FPS, so I've been trying to avoid it. Like, eventually, when I do decide to open up the cavern, I might want to turn off temperatures or turn off the weather, which I did in Sandpillar, and it didn't make a big difference, but considering this entire fortress is above ground, it's kind of cheap, I feel, because weather plays a big role in above ground fortress. You want it to kind of rain, and you want the water to freeze over and whatnot. But it slows the game down a lot. Yeah, we have a ton of schist. I'd rather that he was digging out that diorite instead. Can't dig that out because it's on the edge of the map. Alright, cool. So I guess down here, this section here is a lot of diorite. So if this turns out to all be schist, which it does kind of look like. So maybe schist is the stone, because remember this is 2 different biomes. It straddles 2 biomes. So maybe this is the diorite biome, and then up here is the schist biome. The reason I like to have multiple biomes, I've said this before in Anvil Quested, I might have said it in Sandpillar, is that maybe one biome contains iron, and the other one contains tetrahedrite, and so you get to have both. It just doubles the chance of you getting something cool. Gives you different gems, different stones, different minerals. But, yeah. Alright, well there is everybody. Let's go to squads. Do I have to activate them? Yeah, let's schedule them as active training, and now they should turn into little military guys. Because right now they're still wearing their civvy clothes. Yep, there they go. We got little military guys. That's lovely. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to make them a... Except for the ones that already have a particular skill, the ones that don't have any skill, I think I'm going to make hammer dwarves. And the reason for that is the one metal that we have an abundance of is silver. And silver's a heavy metal relative to iron, and it makes great warhammers. So I think that just might be what we have to do here. If we had iron, we might have gone a different direction. Warhammers are pretty good against goblins because they're armored, so it bypasses their armor, whereas, for example, something like a dragon or a forgotten beast is more susceptible to something like a spear, which can pierce through their thick hide and deep into them and cause organ damage and things of that nature. But a little creature is susceptible to getting bashed around with a hammer. At least that's kind of how I understand it. But alright, ladies and gentlemen, that is where we're at right now. We have our squad, we're all ready to go. We had some beautiful pictures by Archangel 3, and next episode we'll just continue along. I'll do some setting things up off camera and continue to build, and maybe we'll get started on that hospital we need, because as you've seen, we have some dwarves that are suffering from injuries, and that is not a good thing. So once again, I am Marcus Aurelius. I'd like to thank you so much for following the lives and adventures of these little bastards here in Foresthome. Have a good one.